Welcome to the Determined People podcast. We are committed to spreading encouragement, strength, and hope to a world in desperate need of it. Everywhere you look in today's culture, you see stories of remarkable people experiencing remarkable success. Our show focuses on the backstories of everyday, relatable people who have achieved greatness in their lives. We focus on the story behind what we see in the world. Our hope is that you find yourself in these stories, that you say, if that person made it, so can I. And now, our host, John Harrell.
Welcome to the Determined People podcast. I'm glad you're here. And before we get started with today's interview, which you're going to love, would you do me a favor? Would you please hit that subscribe button? That way you can get content delivered to your inbox every time we publish an episode on YouTube and every day when I do the 20 to 30 second inspirational message on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, I'm there. So that would be great. Let's get into today's interview. You're going to love this one. My guest today is Makena Sage. Makena is an entrepreneur. She's a coach and leadership trainer and the chief executive officer of Follow Your Aliveness. I love the name. Makena, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. You know, you have the perfect name for what you do, both your first name and your last name, because Sage is like someone who is wise, someone you seek advice and help from, right?
Yeah.
And then Makena, I looked it up. It means happy one.
It does. You're right. And then happy one or abundance, I believe, is one of the other, which is also great.
Well,
so
both are fitting from what I've observed. So let's get started. I want to start off with when you started your career. You began in marketing, and you were doing very well.
Yes.
But what happened?
I basically burned out. I had this, I would say, series of moments, but I can remember a particular moment. I was just telling this story the other day, and I was living in California. My life was going great. I had started this marketing business right out of college, and I'm making, 6 figures plus, and living by the beach and living the dream. I met my now husband, and so life was really, really good. And I remember driving up to my apartment one day, and I'm in my convertible, and I just had like tears streaming down my face. And I walked into my apartment, and my husband, then boyfriend, was like, Makena, what's wrong? And I just like started bawling, basically. I'm a crier. And it just sort of hit me, and it had been hitting me for a long time, that like something wasn't fully aligned. And I couldn't really put my finger on what it was. I just knew that I was exhausted a lot of the time at the end of the day. I knew that I was, feeling like these feelings of burnout. It was starting to affect my health. I was having anxiety and even panic attacks. And so that was kind of my moment. And I was just like, this has got to change. I have to figure out what it felt like my soul or God or whatever you want to call it was calling me to do something different. Mm-hmm. But I was really scared to lose what I'd worked so hard for, because I spent 6 years building this business.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about is so true, because a lot of people feel that. They feel called to do something else, but they're afraid to take that step out in faith. Yep. It takes a lot of faith to do that when you're looking into the abyss, no question. Did you ever think, I'm not even 30 years old yet. I'm burnt out. That's what happens to people in their mid-40s. They've been burning the candle at both ends and in the middle for 20 plus years. How could this be happening to me?
I don't think I ever thought that, because I'm an overachiever. And I feel like you see it a lot more with young people who are high achievers, so unfortunately. And I mean, burnout is a term that can be used in many different ways. I wasn't quite at the level of like, I can't function at all, but it was this feeling all the time of like, kind of at the end of my rope, like overly emotional, tired, ready to make this change. Well, not ready, but hearing the call to make that change. And so it was super scary, and I'm not a risk taker by nature. My parents are entrepreneurs. My mom has been a coach for 36 years. And I was always like, I'm not entrepreneurial, like I'm not really a risk taker. So I kind of fell into having that first business as an entrepreneur. Did not expect to do that. Thought I was going to go into the corporate world. And then same thing, is like my soul kept calling me to that next thing. So making a big change like this was a huge leap of faith for me.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Going into the corporate world might have accelerated your burnout, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I did 4 years of business school, and it was just like, I went in one job interview. I'm sitting under the fluorescent lights, and I was just like, I don't think this is it. So
what did you do about it?
Which part? The burnout and the change?
When you made the decision that you want to make a change, what did you do? Walk us through that, how you got to where you were.
Honestly, I tried talking to a lot of different people to get clear on what I wanted to do. I hired different coaches because I come from that world. And no one was really able to help me get clarity. I felt like everybody was giving me a lot of advice and like strategies on things that I could do, but nobody was like reaching deep inside of me and pulling out what was like right for me, so to speak. And ultimately, my mom stepped in. So I mentioned she's been coaching for over 3 decades, and I was very stubborn, like didn't want to run to my mom to try to, figure this out. But she led me through this experience and asked me questions and just really got me out of my head. I was very in my head about the decision, and that's what I see a lot is that people are like up here spinning the wheels, going like, what do I do? But you can't, that quote, you can't solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created it. Is that I always think it's Einstein, right? I love some of his quotes. That's one of my favorites. And so that was it. I was in the same level of thinking. And so what a great coach will do is actually pull you out of that level of thinking into a different space where you can see what you want. And it was like I saw my life stretch out in front of me. I saw exactly what I wanted to do. I felt like I was born for this, raised in this family and always fascinated by my mom's work. And then it was a matter of having the courage to do it. But for me, the fear, like when I really looked forward, and sometimes this is what it takes for people, is I looked forward 2 years, 5 years at what would my life be if I didn't make that change. And in my case, I thought that I would probably get very sick because my body was already giving me all these signs that like something wasn't in alignment. And so that scared the, living daylights out of me. And I was like, okay, I've got to do this. And then I actually entered into a formal mentorship with my mom. So she coached me, mentored me, and eventually we became business partners.
How was that? Because you have an emotional connection. It's your mom. And then she is now your business mentor and partner now. How was that relationship?
It's, we have a great relationship, my mom and I, and a very unique relationship, I think, for a mother and daughter. And I would say we've kind of always been that way. We've been able to have our mother-daughter relationship, but also sort of shift at times into, okay, now we're in the mentorship relationship, we're in the business partner relationship. And so that's what we have to do, is we just kind of put our business partner hat on, or she's my mentor in this context. And yes, there are moments where that devolves and we have our little moments, but typically we've been able to do that. And that's a huge, huge blessing. She's, apart from my husband, my great, soul connection in this life. So I'm really, really grateful.
It's a gift that you can do that, to separate the two.
Yeah.
It really is. And so it's unique. It's not undoable for people, but you've just got to be willing to commit to that. And your mother does too.
Yes.
Because as a parent, I'll tell you, you have to let your kids struggle. And it is painful to see them struggle. But if you pick them up, dust them off, and tell them to go conquer the world, they never learn resilience. Your mom came in at the right time. She let you. She waited.
Yeah. She let me fall in the ways that I needed to. Not because she didn't care, but because she knew she couldn't.
Sure.
Yeah, step in, and then there came a point where she just said, "Okay, I'm stepping in."
I believe there's a divine order to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, what we see it's got to be more than this. Okay. But you started in coaching, but within 60 days, your first client canceled.
Yes. That was actually a year prior. So I had an inkling that this might be what I wanted to do, but a lot of fear around it. So about a year before my mom stepped in and I had that experience, I was like, you know what? I think I might want to coach. I'm just going to like put myself out there and start, online, start telling people I'm coaching. And when I did that with my first business with online marketing, I started to get clients right away. And so I think I had the idea that would happen in this space as well. Well, I got one client and she, worked with me for a short time, but I didn't really know, even though I had a lot of coaching background, I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of like, I had learned a lot of it at a young age. And in terms of really, I was doing a lot of strategy at that time, but not a lot of what I would call true coaching. And so I didn't really understand marketing and sales in this business and how to really work with people. And so she canceled within about 60 days. It was super embarrassing. I just kind of quietly, tail between my legs, went back to my marketing business. And that was like even more of a reason for me to have fear to take this leap of faith when the time came. It was really, I always say that early 2018, when I had that experience with my mom and she really helped me get clear and I saw that it's like now or never, no turning back. I feel like that was the moment I gave my life over to God or gave my life over to something greater than myself, because I was just like, if this is what I'm supposed to do, because all signs are pointing there, like, please let it work out. I will show up, I will do the work. And here I am 4.5 years later, and it's still working. So I still make that prayer sometimes when I'm like up leveling or whatever the thing is. But yeah, so far so good. So
that's awesome. So what was the difference in you, but from that first time that you went into coaching to the second time? What changed in you?
Oh my gosh. What changed externally was the support hugely, which is why we went on to develop our coaching certification, because a lot of people the majority of people don't have a mom that can be their mentor, that can be their believer, that can teach them these skills on a business level and on a coaching level, if coaching is what they want to do. So that was the huge change externally. The change internally, as I got that support, gosh, I'm trying to think like what was the biggest change. Really learning the art of coaching. So I always say there's like 3 buckets if coaching is something someone's interested in. There's what I call self-mastery, there's business mastery, and there's coaching mastery. Okay. So self-mastery is your own transformation. So in order to be a great coach, in order to work with people, I believe you have to be congruent. You have to have transformed yourself and be continuously transforming yourself. So definitely started on that journey even more so. The business mastery side is really understanding like how to run a coaching business. And then the coaching mastery side is like the art and craft of working with people in a very deep way. So those are the 3 areas that my mom really worked with me in, and that we later designed our program around, because it was so transformational. So in the process, it wasn't just that like my coaching changed, my whole life changed. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Incredible.
So when you get a new client, what's that like? Walk us through the process of getting a new coaching client, what they can expect.
When they come in for like a program, or we do a range of different things. So we have like a mastermind that's for, we work with 95% women. So we have a mastermind called Wealthy World Changers, and that's really about growing in your business and growing in all parts of your life. We have coaching programs. So we have a range of different programs. I would say if someone was just meeting me and interested in coaching, typically we have, they might meet me at an event. I host a lot of local events here in Austin for women. I have a group called Women Empowering Women. And I do these kind of not-for-profit events to bring the community together. And so they might meet me there, or we might meet out somewhere. Someone might connect us, or they see a post of mine on social media. And then we usually have a short conversation, like a 30-minute coaching call, which I'll do for free, and just really help them get clarity. I call it a clarity call because that was what I was struggling with so much when I was starting. And that's what, my mom really supported me around. So really helping them get out of their heads and get connected to what they really, really want.
Yeah, our heads can be our biggest enemy, right? Because the greatest battle is between our ears. So
Totally.
how do you coach somebody to clarity? To get them to define, this is what I really want. Because I found a lot of people know that they want more than what they're living, but they don't know what it is. And, I have these conversations with God all the time. Just tell me what you want, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Then I go, would I really? But how do you coach somebody to clarity?
It's an interesting point you have about like, tell me what you want and I'll do it, right? Because there is this interplay between like being in surrender in life, but also being in the driver's seat in a sense of like, owning up to your desires. And the coaching framework that my mom developed over the last 36 years is called the Aliveness Method. And the way we talk about it is, this is based on her observation of tens of thousands of people, is that we all started out as happy babies. So think about like a baby. You see a baby in a grocery store and they're beaming and they're, in the what do you call it? Like the push trolley thing. And they're looking up at you, unless they're crying and throwing a fit, which, they have those moments, but typically their eyes are super bright. They're very present. They're very in their experience. And when a baby or a young child wants something, what do?
They cry.
They cry. And when do they stop?
When they get it.
When they get it. So this is how we all are. We all know exactly what we want deep down inside. But what happens is, if you look in the eyes of a high school senior versus that baby, what's the difference, do you think? Like, do they look the same, the eyes?
Rarely. It's life. Life knocks you down.
Yeah. And so the eyes typically look a little duller, not as present. You can really see, and we say the eyes are the window to the soul, right? It's a great quote. So what happens in that time is, like you're saying, life knocks you down, people are bullied, or someone says, oh, you can't actually do that thing because it's not realistic, or whatever those experiences are. People have trauma and abuse and, very challenging things that happen in their childhoods for some people. And so over time, their lights begin to dim. And in this coaching method, we talk about there are a few different ways that people can come back alive again. This is follow your aliveness, right? And really get into alignment with their truth, with what they really want, and start to create a life like that. Sometimes it's a spiritual experience, a profound spiritual experience, and somebody wakes up and goes, wait a second, I'm not living the life that I'm meant to live, or I am living the life and I need to be more grateful. Sometimes it's a life, threatening injury or a loss. So like, a car accident, losing a job, a divorce, something like that. We see people completely shift their lives, right? And then the other way is through education. And that's what we do, or we call it education through the coaching. And so the coaching method she developed is really about helping you get back in touch with that happy baby inside that actually knows exactly what we want. But we all sit there and we get in our heads, and through our conditioning, we think, I don't actually know. So it's hard to kind of explain how we do it, but we ask a series of questions, always a little bit different. And then I'm actually watching, when I'm working with someone, I'm watching the eyes. I'm watching for physiological shifts.
Yes.
When I see them light up, that's a clue, right? It's like their soul is shining out through their eyes. And we say aliveness is the compass that points the way to your most extraordinary life. You are 100% unique. You came for a purpose, right? And even just living a great life in the process, those lights in the eyes are like clues that can help point us in that direction. And then the coaching kind of happens around that to help someone actually take action on what they see.
That is so important what you said. You're looking for clues by the way the eyes change.
Yeah.
That's actually a breakthrough. It really is a breakthrough. I think that's awesome. Because, a lot of things, also people have fear of, like, I was talking about this the other day. Who's the proverbial they? Like, what would they say, right? Or the world, what would other people say? I mean, look at yourself. You were living a life in Southern California, which is beautiful. By the ocean. You had your own business. It was successful, making six figures. And they go, well, you gave that up? People would think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
All that matters is what you think. You knew something wasn't wrong, but it was internal. It wasn't what the world sees, right?
And so much, I'll just say one little point about that. So much of the time people come to us, they're like, I have a great life. And a lot of people feel guilty for wanting more. They're like, I have my family, I have my career. In some cases, I have, so much is working. Why would I want more? But they can't kind of shake that deep down feeling that either something's not quite right if they're in kind of the bucket I was in, which not everybody needs to change careers or something like that. It's different for everyone. Or they have this feeling like there's something more I'm meant to be doing. Like, one of our clients has a successful, thriving law firm and, kids and a happy marriage and so much working for her. But there's this bigger dream and this, other thing she dreams of doing as well. And so that's often people come to us as like to step into that. But it's amazing. We have to work through the conditioning of like, that's ungrateful, or you should be more grateful for what you have, especially with women for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a difference?
Yeah.
Interesting. I often say this quote from Henry David Thoreau from the 1850s. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation and die with their song still in them.
Right.
I would say, I don't want to die with my music in me.
Right
I don't want to die, but I'm going to. But I don't want to die with my music in me. It's got to get out. So I love what
you say that quote.
Doing.
I see that as my life's purpose, and I think my mom too is to help people not die with their music still in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've built a great business. You and your mom have your partner, and you have, I think, 7 people working on your team.
Yep.
High achievers have a real problem with not a 4-letter word, but a 4-syllable word. Delegation. How do you? I'm guessing do you struggle with that?
I did in the beginning.
Did.
I've gotten so much better. I actually love it now. I'm so grateful for my team. They're amazing. I kind of just learned through trial and error and through like my mom's mentorship, just being like, hand that to the team, like give that to the team. I'm very detail oriented. I'm like very what would you say? Like close the loop and, things done a certain way. So
there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah. So I kind of self-taught myself a system for delegation that I really love, where I use like video. You can record your screen on a computer with a software called Loom. And so I record videos and I just explain what I want done. And then I always talk to my team members, every week. It depends. Now some of them are trained not to talk quite as often, but we have meetings and everything. So I've really learned to like quickly go, okay, so this person could do that. This person could do that. So it was definitely a struggle in the beginning. And I'm a huge proponent of people, if they can, getting support even early on. And a lot of people will tell me, McKenna, I don't have the budget, I don't have the ability to delegate. And we always say there's so many ways that you can do this, right? Even if you're a mom and you're at home with your kids, you could get with another mom and you guys could switch off doing childcare for each other's children, right? Like you take their kid for an afternoon and they take yours for an afternoon, even if you can't afford a nanny. The first thing I always delegated was personal, because I wanted to focus in my business. So like getting someone to help clean the house every couple of weeks or doing those sorts of things, which is not as expensive as people might think.
It frees your time, and your time is invaluable.
Your time is what's most valuable, and really putting it into things that you love to do. If you love to clean your house, then clean your house, right? But if you don't, maybe that's a place to begin. So and then even in your business, sometimes people have a relative or a friend or something like that wants to come in and support them, or maybe again trade or something like that. So it really is to look and see, what is your zone of genius? We have a quiz that we developed called the World Changer Quiz. And it tells you your top talent and your success motivator. And people typically use that in the business context, but some people, or in career, some people will use it in other areas of life. And that's really important to know, because when you learn your number one talent, you go, maybe I should be delegating the things that aren't in my talent and creating what we call your winning team, which is people that, my mom is a visionary, for example. I'm a connector. And then we hire people to be in the role of what we call a ranger. And that creates this energy where we all get to be in our zones of genius.
That's brilliant. It actually is a lot like the way that Andrew Carnegie ran U.S. Steel. He was a Scottish immigrant, and somebody was interviewing him and said, I know nothing about the mining, manufacturing, marketing of steel. And I looked at him, well, how do you run this business? He said, I have somebody at each of these buttons on my phone that is an expert in that. I said, well, Mr. Carnegie, what do you do? He said, I keep them all working in harmony.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. The man was probably the first billionaire the world had ever created in today's dollars, right? Yeah. But it's just a system that works, because high achievers have only got so much time too, same amount as everybody else does. You talked about, aligned with what we're talking about, you have something go mode and flow mode. Would you explain those?
Yeah, this really came out of kind of the burnout cycle that I found myself in a lot as the high achiever. And there's a lot of talk in the personal development spaces and coaching spaces around masculine and feminine energy. And while I totally believe that there are these different energies within us all, I didn't really resonate with masculine versus feminine, because I have what some might consider a lot of masculine energy, right? A lot of this go, hustle, and business focus kind of energy. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not a masculine. I don't consider myself a masculine woman. Not that there's anything wrong with that if you are, it just didn't resonate with me. Sure. So I said, what if we could recoin these terms to something that is gender neutral, right? And so we coined them as go mode, being the more what we previously would have called masculine energy, and flow mode being the more what we would have called feminine energy. But the truth is, we all have both energies within us. We have the ability to go kick into more go, or to be in more flow. And in the flow mode, you're in more of a receptive space. That tends to be where we're connected more to intuition or kind of different kinds of guidance. We can see things with a broader perspective. And so there's a lot of gift in both, right? There's a gift in flow, but if you have too much flow going on, then you are probably going to have a hard time getting things done, or like closing the loop, or actually kind of getting out there and getting results, especially in career or business. And in too much go mode is, again, get stuff done. It's more linear, logical, black and white thinking. And there's a huge gift in that, right? But the challenge, if you have too much of that, is the burnout, is the, burning the candle at both ends. And especially, again, and this is, when we talk about men and women, I like to say I make generalizations, right? So there's so many different kinds of men and women out there, and also trans and all kinds, right? So I like to say it's a generalization, but in general, for women's bodies, we have a harder time doing as much go mode as men, right? Because we're physiologically made more a little bit in the nurturing way. And so it tends to burn us out hormonally a little bit more often than with men. So anyway, these are the terms, and I teach about them in such a way that women can learn, and men, but I mostly work with women, that women can learn how do you navigate between these two energies. And I say kind of dance between them. So if you are a career woman and you're working a lot, how can you also shift out of that so you get the beauty of the flow mode, which I was missing completely when I was in my previous career. And that was a huge reason I burned out. And that was a reason I couldn't also connect to that clarity. Mm-hmm. And then if you are too much in flow mode and you're like, you know, in this flowy sort of space and intuition but you are not getting the results you want, let's say in your career or business, how can you harness a little bit more of that go mode? Mm-hmm. So they're just, you know, terms we created and kind of an educational tool that's been really helpful for me.
A great explanation. I like the way you described that. You know, old habits can have a way of sneaking back in. Mm-hmm. Do you still battle some of your old habits?
Oh,
how do you handle it?
100%. Yeah, it's still my greatest, you know, challenge, I would say, is the too much go mode. I've come so far with it. I really, I've come so far with being more in my function. You know, I always say when I was working in my previous career, even though I was really good at what I did, I was only in my zone of genius maybe 20% of the time. Mm-hmm. You know, your zone of genius is when you're getting great results and you're lit up, you're having fun doing it. And now I'm in my zone of genius about 80% plus, right? And when it comes to the go mode, flow mode, you know, I was cyclically and constantly in that kind of burnout cycle. And now it happens periodically, but not that often. So how do I balance that? Gosh, I don't even know. I think it's just been, we always say awareness starts to create the change. Mm-hmm. Awareness starts to create the change in anything. So if you're listening and you're like, ooh, yeah, I'm hearing myself in either the go mode, flow mode, or I'm not in my zone of genius, or anything I'm talking about today, it's really to, you know, first of all, be kind to yourself and realize that like we're all struggling with something. Does not matter. Like your favorite person that you look up to in the world, like they're struggling with something. And so be kind to yourself, and we're all at different stages in our journey. And then realize that just the awareness, if you can really bring something out of the unconscious and into the conscious, then you will automatically start to self-correct. So that's a huge part of it. And then it's just been, you know, setting up systems in my life, boundaries around my work and things like that. So
have you ever felt guilt setting up a boundary? Because I've seen that people do struggle with that sometimes. They have a hard time saying no.
You know, it's funny. I think that used to be maybe more where it came from when I was in my previous career. And now I have a harder time setting boundaries because I love what I do so much. Mm-hmm. And that's been an interesting one to navigate, that I like truly, truly love my work and I want to do everything. we have so many ideas and projects and programs and then to go, oh, wait a second, I have to set a boundary because I need to take care of myself and not just put my mission first, mm-hmm. Has been an interesting one to navigate. So I don't experience a lot of guilt now, though maybe that was true in the past. It's more about like so much of a good thing and how do I, sort of put boundaries around that.
So recently you had a birthday and you have 2 words for the next year, play and spaciousness.
Yes.
What are those?
Those are very related. So the spaciousness is related to the realizing recently that I love what I do so much that I'll do it day and night, and I need to create a little more spaciousness. So just being intentional about that. A lot of travel in the next year, and we're going to start trying for kids in a couple of years. So it's like, okay, this is the time to, you know, enjoy travel, enjoy my business, and have some spaciousness for those parts of life. I just love the word play. I think that I'm grateful. I play a lot in my life. I think a lot of adults lose that though, you know, like we lose the being silly and goofy. And I'm grateful with my husband that we're very fun and goofy and playful together and friendships. But yeah, just really exploring like what is play for me at this stage. Also, again, knowing that we're going to move into starting a family soon. So I'm not exactly sure what that one will be yet. I usually just choose a word kind of intuitively and then get to explore for the year what that's going to be.
What were your words last year?
I don't remember. I'm hoping I'll remember them this year. That's why I posted them online. I'm like, if I put it out there publicly, then I have to remember. So
well, set up a network of us. We'll text you every month. Yes,
exactly.
Play and spaciousness. How
exactly.
You doing? Right?
You can be my coaches. Hold me accountable.
I want to end with a quote from you.
Yeah.
And the quote is, and I love this, is the eyes become brighter when you're living the life you're supposed to, end of quote. That is so poetic and true. And I'm glad that you brought that up about looking for that spark in someone's eyes, because you can see it. When it happens, it's right in front of you.
Yes. And two quick distinctions I'll make about that is, one is, for those of you listening, is you can start to observe this in the people that, your loved ones or people you're having a conversation with, and watch as you ask questions, as you're talking to them. Oh, like my husband really lit up when he was talking about golfing. And then follow the thread of that, like ask him more questions about it. Usually we just kind of zone out, but like dig deeper and you'll be amazed. It'll open up this like very rich, deep conversation, and your partner will feel more connected to you.
Absolutely.
As a result. So you can start to pay attention to this in other people. And, we teach a lot of distinctions about this in our certification, which many people take, by the way, to become coaches, but a lot of people take it just because they want to bring the tools into their families, into their work. And so we teach about distinctions around how to watch for the lights and ask questions and so on. And one thing I'll say is that people, sometimes when they're first learning, they think, oh, well, she told me the eyes are the window of the soul, and the lights mean, that's the compass pointing in the direction of, my true north. So that means that if I light up on something, I should do it. And if I don't light up on something, I shouldn't do it. So I just want to make the distinction that it's a little more, there's some more gray area than that. It's more like just this little like clue, and it's something in this moment, and it's something to dig deeper into and to maybe explore. People make decisions a lot of times from their head and because of something they call a good idea, in quotes. It's like, oh, well, I think this is a good idea, or I think this is what I should do. And when we're coaching someone, we might say, we don't see a lot of light. And so either we need to dig deeper and find out why do they want to do this thing, and then we might hit on it, or it might be that it came from here, in which case we do use the lights as a sort of guiding tool. So I just don't want people going out there like, I didn't light up on it, so I'm not going to do it, or, being too black and white about it. But it is a really, really powerful tool.
But you're right. I mean, it may come here, but it's got to connect here to mean something.
Yes.
And to be something that you really will pursue with everything you've got in you.
Yeah.
Everything you've got. And you mentioned struggles. I've said often, Mark Twain, I think it was, said two things are certain: death and taxes. Mark left one out, and that is struggles. Everyone we meet is struggling with something.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're meaningless struggles. Sometimes they're almost insurmountable. But everyone we encounter is struggling with something. That's why it's so important to be kind to others, even those that don't deserve our kindness. It's important to be kind, because we don't know what lies beneath. But also, I want to reiterate something you said: be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself for mistakes you made in the past.
Yeah.
Things that you might have said. If you say something that hurts somebody's feelings, go apologize. Be the bigger person. Just say, I didn't mean to say that. I apologize. Be kind to people, because they really, in today's world, you're on Facebook. You see what's out there. We need it. Yeah. So that's the theme of the show.
I would add one last thing, which is listen to the whispers of your soul. Yeah. Whether that comes to you through prayer or through just journaling or meditation, whatever it is for you, or that deep down feeling, there's nothing like, you said, don't die with your music left in you. There's nothing more fulfilling than the feeling deep down. When COVID hit and the world was going crazy, and I found myself sitting at my dining room table crying once again because of what was going on in the world, but also because I really asked myself the deep questions. And I said, am I on path? This was a couple of years after my, transition. Am I on path? Am I doing what I'm meant to be doing? And the answer was yes. And I just was like tears of gratitude, because I was like, I have to share this with more people. So there's nothing like that feeling. And it starts with that whisper in your soul. Nobody else can, tell you what that is. It's for you to discover. So
you're right. I'm glad you said that, because there's so much noise in the world. We have news 24/7. We have people barking at us all the time. But you got to get in those quiet moments. That's where you hear from God, the Creator, talking to you. He doesn't stop talking to us. We stop listening because all the other stuff gets in the way. Yeah. So,
and a lot of times that is why people come to us, because they're trying to take those quiet moments, but sometimes it's hard on your own. So people will come and say, can you help us? Can you help me get clarity? Can you help me see? So, yeah.
Again, I love the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
And that's our show for today. If you feel like you have a nudge in you that you haven't pursued fully, give Makena a call. Like she said, there's a 30-minute consultation she'll do, which is complimentary. You have nothing to lose but a half hour of your time. But I think if you will really study the value of what she brings to the equation, it won't be a waste of your time. She's got remarkable wisdom, sage, to be so so young, but she's really involved and well self-aligned and knows where she's going, knows what she wants. Let her help you. Awareness that there's a problem is the first step to solving that problem. So take that brave step. I'll be back tomorrow with another 1-minute message of encouragement, strength, and hope on the audio podcast. And so until next time, everyone, be well.